My name is Maya. I'm 25, and for the past 7 years, my love life has had a permanent third wheel, my mother. Not in the cute, my mom is overprotective way people joke about. I mean that every single time I brought a boyfriend home, my mother treated him like a prize in some twisted competition. A competition I never agreed to enter and couldn't possibly win because the person she was trying to beat was me. It started when I was 18 and dated this shy, sweet guy from my literature class. It became a pattern with the second boyfriend, and with the fourth, it was just a nightmare I could trace step by step. It always went the same way. First came what she called being welcoming. Long hugs that lasted just a second too long, her hands lingering on their shoulders, compliments that were technically harmless but delivered in that low, velvety tone she usually reserved for waiters and bartenders she wanted free drinks from. Then it came, the part that destroyed everything. I should probably describe her so this makes sense. Her name is Veronica. She's 53 now, and if you ask her who she is, she won't say mother or friend or person. She'll say, "I used to model." The first photo you see when you walk into her house is a framed magazine cover from when she was 21. There are more photos down the hallway, in the living room, even in the guest bathroom. Veronica in evening gowns, Veronica in swimsuits, Veronica with big hair and bigger eyelashes, holding sashes and fake flowers from small-town pageants. Even now, she wakes up at 6 to do her skincare routine and her makeup before anyone sees her. She exercises like it's a religion. She buys clothes that look like they came from the sort of boutique that only exists if you already have money. She is beautiful. I won't pretend she's not. Still, she never learned how to age with any kind of grace. To her, every new wrinkle is a crisis, and every younger, beautiful woman is a threat, including her own daughter. She'd lock on to boyfriends the moment I brought them home, like a spotlight finding its target. She'd hug them and drag out the contact, splaying her body onto theirs, saying things like, "Oh, Maya did not tell me she was bringing home someone this handsome," laughing in that way that's meant to be a joke but isn't at all. She'd do that thing with her hair twirling it, cocking her head, and look at them as if she was auditioning for something. The guys would always look a little confused at first. They'd smile politely, glance over at me for reassurance, and try being respectful because who wants to be rude to their girlfriend's mom? I'd just stand there, heart pounding, pretending this was normal. Then she'd get to phase 2, the part that really dug in. Once we were alone, after the dinner or lunch or whatever casual meeting I'd set up, she'd turn from flirtatious to critical. Her voice would get that contemplative, concerned tone, like it does when she's about to say something poisonous and she wants credit for it later. "He's cute," she'd say, narrowing her eyes. "But do you really see a future with someone like that?" Or, "Teaching is sweet, but this? It isn't exactly high aiming, is it? You have always been destined for greater things." Or, "He seems nice, but a little simple for you. I just don't want you to settle, sweetheart. You could do so much better." She always framed it as concern for my future. It was actually sowing doubt, laying little landmines in my head. It made me second-guess the man I'd brought home, and if I wasn't the one seeing clearly. Then came the secret channel. At first, it would seem innocent. I'd find out she'd messaged them to share a recipe or to ask about a birthday surprise. She'd text them things like, "Don't tell Maya I asked. I just want to make sure she's happy." It seemed motherly. Maybe a bit much, but motherly. And then, slowly, it always shifted. More messages, more personal questions, invitations for coffee to talk about Maya, comments about how mature they were, how refreshing it was to talk to a man who understood her, photos from yoga, selfies from her walks, complaints about her loneliness, about how no one really saw her anymore. By the time I caught the pattern, I'd already lost 3 relationships to it. Each boyfriend left for his own reason on paper, but always with the same shadowy presence in the story, my mother. They never said, "Your mom is flirting with me and it's freaking me out." They said, "It's just a lot, the dynamic. I don't know how to deal with it." Then I met Ethan. He was 27, a fourth-grade teacher at the elementary school near my apartment, and the gentlest man I'd ever dated. He remembered my coworkers' names. He left stupid notes on my fridge that made me smile when I came home exhausted. He talked about his students with this quiet pride that made me want to hug him and never let go. We'd been seeing each other 4 months by the time he quipped, "So, when do I meet the famous Veronica? You've mentioned her, but you always change the subject." I hesitated. "That's complicated," I said. "Is she strict? Overprotective?" he asked, smiling. "If only," I muttered, then forced a laugh. "No, I just don't introduce many people to her. It's a lot." But part of me had the thought, maybe this time will be different. Maybe with someone like this, kind and even and steady, it will be okay. So I lied to both of us and said, "Next Sunday? Would you like to come for dinner?" He agreed. Sunday evening, we pulled up to my mother's house. I knew from the porch light and the glow through the window that she was already in full performance mode. When she opened the door, she looked like stepping onto a stage. Her hair was perfectly waved, gleaming. Her emerald dress fitted her slim figure as if stitched onto her body. Her makeup was impeccable. There were diamonds winking in her earlobes and at her throat. She smelled of perfume and times gone by. "Maya!" she exclaimed, laying a kiss on my cheek, before turning to Ethan with a slow, appreciative once-over. "And you must be Ethan." He smiled politely and extended his hand. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. "Oh, please," she cut in, taking his hand with both of hers. "Call me Veronica. Mrs. makes me sound old." Before he could react, she pulled him into a hug. Not the brisk mother-of-my-girlfriend hug I'd seen other women give. No, this one lingered. She pressed her chest against him. She closed her eyes, like she was smelling him. When she finally let go, he shot me a quick, startled look over her shoulder. I gave him a tight smile that I hoped said, "I know, I'm sorry, just get through tonight." Over dinner, she launched into interview mode. She asked Ethan about his students, his childhood, his hobbies, his favorite books. It sounded at first like the normal small talk, but there was always an undercurrent, a testing quality. Her hand would rest on his arm a second too long when she laughed. She complimented his eyes. She called him sweetheart once, then pretended it slipped out. "You know, Maya never brings anyone home," she told him while I was in the kitchen cutting pie. I knew, because I froze just out of sight and listened, breath held. "I was starting to worry she'd decided to marry her work instead," Ethan said, chuckling awkwardly. "Well, I'm glad she made an exception." My mother went on. "She's always been picky. Sometimes I wonder if her standards are too high. But then again, a man really does have to be something special to keep up with her." Her tone, however, came across as saying something else entirely. "Let's see if you can keep up with me." After Ethan had gone, she cornered me in the hallway with the gleeful expression of one who'd found the latest wonder toy. "He's nice," she said, stretching the word like gum. "Maybe a little simple for you, don't you think? Elementary school? That's sweet, but you could do better." My chest was on fire. "I like him," I said softly. She shrugged, her lips curving. "Just don't get too attached. Men like that are often fragile." At the time, I wasn't exactly sure what she meant. Now I do. 2 weeks later, Ethan and I were tangled together at his place on his couch when he pulled away a little and said, "Maya, I need to show you something." His serious tone made my stomach drop. "What's wrong?" He unlocked his phone, scrolled for a moment, then passed it to me. "I didn't want to cause drama with your family," he said, "but this feels off." On the screen were messages from my mother. At first, they seemed harmless. "Hi, Ethan, it's Veronica. Just wanted to thank you again for coming to dinner. It was lovely to meet you. How is the week with the kids? I don't know how you have the patience. Teachers just don't get appreciated enough." Then, gradually, they tipped. "I've found this yoga class near your school. It really helps me out in getting rid of stress. You should join me sometime." Been thinking about our talk at dinner. You're very mature for your age. Most men these days are so dull. If you ever feel like Maya is pulling away, you can always talk to me. I remember what it's like to be young and complicated. My hands began to shake as I scrolled. I don't want you to think I encouraged this, Ethan said in a rush. I've kept it polite. I haven't told you because I didn't want to make you choose between us, but it's getting weird. It's not you, I whispered. It's her. This is what she does. Every time. Every time? He repeated, incredulous. I told him about the pattern, the texts, how boyfriends just seemed to fade out once they got tangled up in my mother's web. He was silent for a good while. Maya, he said finally, this isn't normal. I know, I said. I just don't know how to fix it. 3 days later, he dumped me. It wasn't mean. He hugged me. He told me I was great, that it wasn't my fault. But then he said, I'm not strong enough to navigate whatever's going on between you and your mother. The way she looks at me, the way she talks about you, the messages, it's too much. Behind him, the door had clicked shut softly when he left. I slid to the floor against it, sobbing with such force that my ribs hurt. I wept for him, for each man who ever took a different road, but above all, I wept for me and the ugly realization blooming in my chest. If I didn't do something, I was going to spend my life in a one-sided love triangle with my own mother. Next morning, I woke up, puffed-up-faced, throat raw and in the kitchen, made coffee, sat at the table, stared at the wall, and thought, I can't keep doing this. The next idea that struck was half like a jest, half craziness. If she's going to persist in making a sport out of my boyfriends, I thought, then I'm going to give her a sport that she can't win, not with another real partner. I refused to feed her someone I cared about just to watch her try to devour him. No, I needed a decoy. Someone she could throw herself at, someone who could pretend to be tempted, someone the whole family would believe was my boyfriend, someone she could never, ever actually have. Which is when I remembered Luca. Luca and I met my freshman year of college. He was a theater major, one of those people who comes into a room and the temperature goes up. He's tall, with dark hair that curls, startling green eyes, and is always a little too charming for his own good. Professors gave him extensions on assignments he hadn't even started. People did favors for him and felt lucky afterward. At the time, he wasn't fully out. We'd become friends close, but not confessional in the way some friendships forged in college are. After graduation, we drifted. I moved for work. He for theater. We stayed vaguely in touch on social media. Over time, I witnessed the updates. A soft-launched boyfriend in one photo, then a fully acknowledged partner in the next. Posts about opening nights, failed auditions, small successes. Somewhere along he had written, with his characteristic drama, finally told my parents I like men, and somehow the world didn't end. Gay and alive, what a concept. I sat and stared at his Instagram one evening, his smile bright even in a grainy backstage mirror selfie, and I thought, he loves drama, he hates manipulators, and he is absolutely immune to my mother's weapons. I took a deep breath and sent him a message. Hey, stranger. I have a very weird question for you. How would you feel about playing the role of my boyfriend for a couple of months, just so we can drive my narcissistic mother absolutely bonkers and maybe get my life back? He replied after 3 minutes. Oh my God, he wrote back. This is already my favorite thing you've ever said to me. Tell me everything. We finally met that weekend at a cafe, where he strolled in, garbed in leather, and with a smile that could have illuminated the place without the lamps. Maya, he exclaimed, enveloping me in a hug. You look amazing. Trauma really agrees with you. Least toxic way possible, I swear. We sat by the window. I told him all. The boyfriends, the pattern, the texts, Ethan, the heartbreak, the feeling of competition with a woman that should have been my ally. His expressions went through changes like a photo slideshow. There was humor, incredulity, anger, followed by a cold amusement once more. She's not just narcissistic, he said finally, when I'd stopped talking. She's predatory and sloppy. Amateur villain behavior, honestly. I don't want to ruin her life, I said, staring at my coffee. I just want her to stop ruining mine. So what's the goal? He asked. You want her to be embarrassed? To back off future partners? To see herself clearly? She'll never see herself clearly, I said. I know that now. I just need her to know there are consequences. And I need at least one boyfriend she can't get her claws into. Oh, sweetheart, he said, patting my hand. You have come to the right gay. We scripted the sham relationship almost like a play would go. We'd run into each other at a mutual friend's birthday party, reconnected and started dating. We'd been official for 2 months. He worked in theater lighting design and small directing jobs. Stable enough to impress her, artistic enough to make her feel cosmopolitan. Our dynamic in front of her would be affectionate but not saccharine. He'd be polite to her, even attentive, yet he would constantly visibly choose me. He'd compliment her appearance here and there, but never too much, always laced with just enough distance that she'd want more. The key, Luca said, eyes gleaming, is to make her feel like I see her as an option. Not the only woman in the room, but certainly an interesting one. I will give her just enough attention that she can build a fantasy, and then when she tries to act on it, we turn on the lights and show the whole stage. That sounds cruel, I said. Maya, she has terrorized your love life for years. We're not building a trap for a kind, confused woman. We're building a mirror for someone who enjoys causing you pain. We're just going to let her see herself from the audience's perspective. I told him about my boyfriend before Ethan and the one before him, how each had gotten sucked into my mother's attention and then slowly pulled away from me. Luca nodded, his jaw tight. Very well, he said finally. Let's do it. That night, I sent my mother a message over text. Mom, there's someone I'd like you to meet, I said in a letter. His name is Luca. Can we come next Sunday for dinner? An instant reply from her came in 60 seconds. Oh my God, finally! Of course! I'll make something special. Can't wait to meet him. Sunday had arrived a lot sooner than I had anticipated. The ride over, my stomach twisted into knots. You can still bail, Luca said, turning his head to me from the passenger seat. We can get stuck in traffic and reschedule. No, I said tightly, clenching the steering wheel. If we don't do this now, I'll never do it. She'll just keep winning. She's not going to win tonight, he said. Trust me. She was like a walking photograph, smocked in a tight navy dress, hair in loose, glossy curls, heels that made her several inches taller than me, earrings sparkling. Maya, she said, squeezing me briefly, before turning her full attention to Luca. And you must be Luca. He smiled, as if all the time in the world was his to give to her. It's so nice to finally meet you, he said. I've heard a lot about you. None of it prepared me. She let out a breathy laugh. Oh? Good things, I hope. He looked her up and down just for a sliver of a second and said, She definitely undersold you. I could practically see her pupils dilate. We stepped inside. Her best plates were set out on the dining table, candles lit, all arranged to have that effortless, spontaneous look. It was the same show I had watched all my life, only this time I wasn't in the audience. I was part of the play. Luca was an angel during dinner. He asked her about her days modeling and listened like it was the most interesting story he'd ever heard, complimented her cooking, laughed at her jokes, saying things like, You must have turned heads wherever you went, or It's obvious where Maya got her looks. All the while, one of his hands stayed on my knee under the table, his thumb drawing tiny circles on my skin. When Mom started talking over me or answering questions for me, he would lean back and say, Actually, I'd love to hear Maya's side of that. Or, You tell it better, babe. It was, and is still, one of the strangest feelings, watching someone charm my mother while protecting me from her, instead of using me as a stepping stone to get closer to her. I went to load the dishwasher after dinner and forgot to completely close the door. I could hear them from the living room. So, Veronica, Luca said, what's your secret? My secret, she repeated, gratified. You look 10, 15 years younger than you are, he said. That can't just be good genes. She laughed. You're very smooth, you know that? It's just discipline, hard work. I have always believed that when you take good care of yourself, people will notice. Oh, they notice, he said, the smile in his voice unmistakable. I'm noticing. When we left that night, she hugged Luca tight and told him, You are welcome here anytime, with or without Maya. He smiled politely. I wouldn't dare come without her, he said. She'd kill me. But as we headed for the car, he leaned in close and whispered, She's already planning, in her mind, our clandestine trysts. That's disgusting, I said. That's my mother. That's a problem with her, he replied. Not with you. Within days, it started. First, she texted me. Luca is great, she wrote. You've finally picked someone interesting. Then she texted him. Hey, Luca, it's Veronica. Just wanted to say it was so nice having you over. Hope you're having a great week. He immediately showed me the screenshot of the message. We sat on my couch and formulated his response together. Nice to hear from you, he typed. Week is busy but good. Hope you're having a good one too. Harmless, polite, no flirting on his part. She did it anyway. She sent him photos of dishes she'd cooked, asking if he liked this or that. She sent selfies from her bar class, asking if he had any good post-workout smoothie recipes. She wrote, You really have such a calming energy. Not many people your age have that. It's attractive. He replied in a spaced-out manner, never answering at night, always keeping it just out of reach. Meanwhile, whenever he was around, she became the mother I'd always wanted. She asked about my projects. She complimented my outfits. She bragged to him about my intelligence and my work ethic. It was all part of the show. Look what a supportive mother I am. Look how lucky Maya is. Aren't I relationship material? She's performing motherhood, Luca said late one night as we were leaving her house. She wants me to think that she's this great misunderstood woman, so if I ever did choose her, I'd feel like I'm saving her. Weeks passed like this. Then the visits started. She started dropping by my apartment, always at times when she knew Luca might be there. She'd bring a tray of food I hadn't asked for, or bags of groceries, or some random candles she claimed she'd bought for me, but then spent 10 minutes describing how it would look in her house. Oh, she'd say, amazingly startled to find him on the couch. I did not realize you would be here. Hope I'm not interrupting anything. She always wore her makeup just so. Her clothes were always just a little too tight, a little too low cut. She'd sit on the arm of the chair nearest him instead of on the whole sofa. She'd ask him for help opening jars, moving furniture, setting up a new app on her phone, anything that involved him leaning close to her. When she finally did leave one afternoon, Luca dropped onto my couch and threw a throw pillow onto his face. She spent 20 minutes explaining her glute workout to me, he groaned. If she says the phrase engaging my core one more time, I'm going to scream. Are you okay? I asked, only half jokingly. I'm great, he said, flipping the pillow off and flashing a grin. She's right in our pocket, starving for attention, and positive I'm just on the edge of falling head over heels in love with her. It's almost time. I had no idea it would be so soon. My phone rang one Tuesday afternoon. It was my mother. Her name flashing on the screen still made something inside me flinch. I answered, and she was crying. Maya, she gasped. I need to tell you something, and I need you to be mature about it. Every single alarm in my brain went off. What is it? I asked, bracing myself. It's about Luca, she said, her voice shaking. My heart started hammering. What about Luca? She took a shaky breath. I think I'm falling in love with him. For a second, everything was silent. I forgot to breathe. You... what? I managed. I know it's wrong, she hurried on. I know he's your boyfriend. I didn't plan this. But you can't control feelings, Maya. Sometimes you just connect with someone. He understands me in a way most men don't. We have so much in common. The same taste, the same humor, the same energy. You've known him for 6 weeks, I said, flat. Sometimes that's all it takes. Besides, I'm not blind. I see the way he looks at me, the things he says. I think he has feelings for me, too. I pressed my fingers into my forehead, trying to hold my skull together. Based on what, exactly? I asked. On the way he's with me, she said. The private messages, the compliments, the chemistry. I think he's only staying with you because he doesn't want to hurt you. He's very kind that way. I didn't say a word until she finally asked, Maya? Are you there? I'm here, I whispered. I didn't want to lie to you, she continued. Maybe we should all sit down and talk about this like adults. If we're honest about our feelings, we can figure out what's best for everyone. I don't want this to destroy our family. Like grown-ups, I echoed. Yes. Okay, I said. Come over Saturday evening. We'll talk. I hung up and rang Luca immediately. She says she's in love with you, I told him. She thinks you feel the same way. She wants to figure out what's best for everyone. On the other end, he was silent for a second, then said, Perfect. Perfect? I snapped. This is horrifying. This is exactly where we wanted her, he said. She is so convinced she can take anything you have, even your boyfriend, that she's willing to blow up your relationship to do it. Now we show her what happens when she goes too far. He came an hour early on Saturday. We ran over the plan. You okay? He asked, scrounging my face. I don't know, I said. Part of me feels guilty. Part of me just wants to scream at her. Part of me just wants all this to be over. It will be, he whispered. No more men walking away confused, thinking you are the complicated one. No more pretending you don't see what she's doing. She came at 7, my mother. She'd gone full red carpet, tight black dress with a low neckline, high heels, dramatic makeup. Her hair was curled and glossy. She carried an expensive bottle of wine and an air of delicate suffering. Maya, she said, hugging me briefly and already scanning the room for Luca. When she saw him, her whole face lit up. Luca, she breathed. You look handsome tonight. So do you, he said politely. You look stunning. We sat in the living room, all 3 of us, in a tight triangle. My mother in the armchair, facing the couch. Luca and I sat, his hand deliberately in mine. She cleared her throat. Well, she began, I suppose we all know why we're here. We do, said Luca in agreement. And first, I just want to say, I appreciate your honesty, Veronica. To admit difficult feelings takes courage. She let her guard down a little, thinking he spoke so calmly because he sympathized with her. I was so afraid you'd both hate me, she said, voice wobbling. But I cannot continue to play this farce. It pains me too deeply. I know, he said. And I think this conversation is very long overdue. He squeezed my hand a little harder. My mother's eyes flicked to that, confused, but she didn't interrupt. Veronica, he said to her, you are an amazing woman. You're beautiful, smart, interesting. Any guy would be flattered to have your attention. The slow smile had parted her lips. This was the speech she expected. But, he went on, I am utterly, thoroughly, head over heels in love with Maya. Her smile froze. And, he continued softly, I'm also gay. Silence hit like a physical thing. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. I'm sorry? She stammered. I'm gay, he repeated calmly. Have been my whole life. I live with my boyfriend, Noah. We've been together for 3 years. He knows all about this. He helped pick this shirt, actually. He plucked at his collar with an amused little smile. This is some kind of sick joke, she whispered. It's not a joke, he said, the playfulness gone from his voice. Maya asked me to pretend I was her boyfriend because she was desperate. She has watched you flirt with and sabotage every relationship she's had since she was a teenager. She wanted one man in her life you couldn't steal. Her head whipped toward me. "You did this to me?" she spat. "You set me up? Your own mother?" "I defended myself," I said, my voice low. "After years of you turning every man I cared about into some twisted competition." "I was testing them for you," she exploded. "If they could not stand up to a little harmless attention, then they were not strong enough." "Harmless attention?" Luca repeated, his eyebrows raising. "Veronica, you asked me to meet you alone for coffee 3 times. You sent me workout selfies with captions about how flexible you are. You told me you thought Maya and I were settling for each other." "I never sent you anything inappropriate," she snapped. He unlocked his phone, tapped, and held it out. There they were. Not nudes, no, but intentional. Sports bras, tight leggings, sweaty, posed. Things like, "This is why I look better than most women half my age," and "You should see me in person." She went white-faced. That's just gym progress," she protested weakly. "Everyone posts those." "You're old enough to be my mother," he said softly. If some 53-year-old man was sending photos like this to a younger woman dating his daughter with that kind of caption, would you call it harmless attention, or would you call it what it is? She suddenly rose, her body quivering with rage. "I don't have to sit here and be attacked," she shouted. "You two planned this. You wanted to humiliate me. You wanted to make me look insane." "You did that all on your own," I said, my voice shaking. "You have managed to chase away every man I've ever had feelings for. You text them behind my back. You tell them I'm difficult and fragile, and you are the only one who understands me. You make them feel guilty for choosing me instead of you." "I did it for you," she shrieked. "Because you don't understand men. They leave if you don't keep them interested. I was trying to show you what it takes." "You weren't trying to show me anything," I shot back, standing up too. "You were trying to prove you could still take anything I had, even my boyfriend's." For a moment, she just stared at me. Then something in her cracked. "You are an ungrateful child," she spat. "After all I have done, I ought to have left you with your father. Maybe then you'd appreciate me." She snatched the unopened bottle of wine off the coffee table and flung it at the wall. It burst in a star of red liquid and glass across the painted surface. "I'm leaving," she announced, breathless. "And don't expect to hear from me anytime soon. Maybe when you grow up and learn how to treat your mother with respect, we'll talk." She stormed out and slammed the door so hard that the neighbor's dog started barking. For what felt like a really long time, the only sound in that room was our breathing and the sluggish staccato drip of wine down my wall. Then Luca let his breath out. "Well," he said, almost tenderly, "that went better than I feared." I laughed, a high, strange sound. "She threw a bottle," I said. "Yeah," he replied, "but she just now learned that sometimes when she crosses lines, she doesn't get to be in control of the story anymore. And she's not going to risk some other man seeing her like that. She didn't call for 3 weeks. She didn't text. She didn't show up uninvited. It was the longest silence we'd ever had. I almost fooled myself into thinking the fight had changed her. Then my Aunt Carla called. "Maya," she said, her voice all careful. "Your mother's been staying with me. I think you ought to know what she's telling people." My shoulders tensed and I asked, "What is she saying?" "She's telling everyone," Carla said slowly, "that you brought home a gay friend and pretended he was your boyfriend because you were jealous of the attention he gave her. She says you staged this whole thing as some cruel prank to humiliate her because you can't stand that men still find her attractive." I hadn't said anything then, letting the words hang there in the air like smoke from something burning. "That's not what happened," I said finally, my voice thin. "I know," Carla said. "I don't believe her, but she's been calling around. Your uncles, your cousins, her friends. She's telling a very dramatic version where she's the wounded party." Then, over the next few days, my phone buzzed relentlessly, relatives wanting to make sure I was okay, old family friends passing along word from Mother, who was devastated and couldn't understand why you'd do that. Until then, I saw a few of her posts on social media, obscure yet obvious. Nothing hurts like a daughter who resents you for being beautiful. Some children will do anything to tear their mothers down when they can't handle their own insecurities. Articles about toxic adult children shared with captions like, "Wow, this hit home." The comments filled with her friends offering sympathy. "You're gorgeous, Veronica." "She's probably just jealous." "You deserve better." I called Luca, sobbing. "She's winning again," I said. "She's turning everything into her story. She's always the victim." "Of course she is," he said. "That's what narcissists do when you confront them. They rewrite reality until they look like the injured party." "I can't fight that," I whispered. "She's better at this game than I'll ever be." "Maybe you don't have to fight it," he said. "What's that even supposed to mean?" "She's built a story that only works if no one thinks about it too hard," he replied. "Let people think. Let them fill in the blanks. Either they see through it or they don't. You don't have to campaign. Just live your life." At first, I didn't believe him. Then my cousin Jenna called. "I've been thinking about your mom's version of events," she said, "and it doesn't really add up." "How so?" I asked. "Well," Jenna said, "she says Luca was always gay, and you knew that, and you pretended he was your boyfriend to embarrass her because she was being too friendly. But if she was just being friendly, why would she be so humiliated? If I found out a guy I'd been nice to was secretly gay, I'd be a little embarrassed maybe, but mostly I'd laugh and move on. Why is she so devastated? Why is she staying with Carla?" I exhaled a breath I hadn't noticed I was holding. "I can't explain her behavior without making her sound worse," I said. "Exactly," Jenna said. "The only way her story makes sense is that she did something she don't want to admit. So the person who thinks about it a little bit longer than 5 seconds is going to start wondering what she's not saying." Then, a similar realization slowly dawned on one after another relative. They demanded that she tell them exactly what she had said to Luca that made the reveal so embarrassing. The explanation was always evasive or angry. The more she tried to spin, the deeper she was entrenched. Meanwhile, I started dating again. His name was Daniel, and through a coworker's birthday dinner, we met. He was a lawyer, his words lacking in delicate roundness and thereby comforting somehow. He seemed more amused than alarmed by the things I said. He asked on our third date, "So tell me about your family. You made a face the last time you mentioned your mom." I told him the truth about the fake boyfriend, the wine bottle, and the smear campaign. He listened, then said, "That's a lot, but honestly, I'm more impressed by you than scared of her. You got tired of being bullied and you came up with a creative solution. It's messed up, sure, but it also shows you won't just lie down and take it." When I finally decided to introduce him to my mother, I warned him carefully. "She will probably flirt with you," I said. "She'll say cutting things about me that sound like concern. She'll try to get your number, maybe under the pretense of planning something for me. Don't engage. Don't be rude, but don't let her have a foothold." He nodded. "I'm there to date you," he said, "not audition for her approval." Dinner with my mother and Daniel felt surreal. She opened the door in a little more subdued dress than usual, but I suspected that was because half the family had seen her melt down over Luca. "So," she said, eyeing him, "the lawyer. Finally, someone with ambition." Daniel smiled politely and extended a firm handshake. "Nice to meet you, Veronica. I've heard a lot about you." She laughed that laugh she does. "Only good things, I hope." "Oh, she doesn't say much about you," he replied matter-of-factly. "We talk more about her work. She blinked once before recovering. She made it through dinner using all the old standbys, asking him invasive questions about his salary, his parents, his career plans, oohing over his eyes, joking that I was too sensitive, that I was being dramatic. Every time, Daniel brought the subject back to me with a few quiet words. "Actually, one of the things I like most about Maya is how deeply she feels," he said at one point. "It means she cares." "Well, you haven't seen her meltdowns yet," my mother said, her eyes rolling. "I've seen some," he replied, smiling at me. "They're part of the package. I love the whole thing." By the end of the night, she looked thrown off. Her tools weren't working. She couldn't get him alone, she couldn't triangulate us, and she couldn't risk another dramatic blow-up with a boyfriend in front of the family, so she retreated. She still made the occasional passive-aggressive comment, but the intense predatory focus was gone. She'd been burned too badly once to risk being caught doing the same thing again. 2 years later, Daniel proposed. When we told my mother, she pursed her lips and said, "Well, I suppose he'll do. You are a bit young for marriage, but I guess people don't listen anymore." We were 28 and 32. Wedding planning was a never-ending tug-of-war. She wanted a larger venue, a more expensive photographer, different flowers, a different dress. "Those photos won't flatter you," she'd say. "Trust me, I used to model. You need better light." Daniel would say, "We appreciate your advice, Veronica, but we've made our decision." Daniel listened. Then she would huff and complain to her friends that he controlled everything. But for the first time in my life, I had a partner who really didn't care whether she liked him. The wedding was stunningly beautiful, despite her trying to outshine me with a silver gown, a little too glamorous for a mother of the bride. Her speech was actually appropriately shocking. She talked about being proud and happy and amazed to see me so loved. For a brief second, I felt perhaps that was it. Perhaps the change had been made. Next, she stood right in the middle of all the single women during the bouquet toss, caught it, and held it aloft like a trophy. "The line forms behind me," she called, winking at Daniel's bachelor brother. The room erupted in laughter. I shook my head. That was my mother, still desperate to be center stage, even at her own daughter's wedding. Now, 3 years later, Daniel and I are married. We have a 1-year-old daughter, Lily. She has my eyes and my mother's irresistibly dramatic smile. My mother is consumed by her grandmotherhood. She babysits twice a week. She brings heavy-duty bags of clothes, toys. She floods the social media with her and Lily, captions like, "Grandma life is the best life?" As if she invented grandparenthood. Sometimes I catch her watching Daniel with that old, assessing look, like she's wondering if she could still pull him into her orbit if she really tried. But then Lily squeals, or topples over, or does something adorable and small, and my mother's attention snaps right back to the only adoration that really matters to her now, the uncritical love of a baby who doesn't know what manipulation is. Something has dawned on me, and well, it didn't fix my mother, the fake boyfriend plan. It certainly didn't imbue her with self-awareness. It didn't convince her that she was wrong. In her head, she's still the victim of a cruel daughter who set her up. But it fixed something in me. It taught me that I don't have to silently bear the brokenness of others just because they're family. It taught me that I am allowed to defend myself in a manner not polite or soft. It taught me I can't change a narcissist, but I can corner them so their own need to look like the victim keeps them from acting out in the same way again. My mother will most likely always be who she is, the one who has to be the most beautiful woman in every room, the center of every story, the wounded one in each conflict. She still tells her version of the Luca incident at parties, the one where her jealous daughter tried to shame her for being too charming. Let her. Because at the end of the day, her narrative doesn't matter as much as my reality. But here's my reality. I have a husband who sees me, a daughter whose face lights up when I walk into the room, a life finally all mine. My mom can think what she wants, whatever that gets her through the night. She can be the victim in 1,000 retellings. But she also knows, buried deep inside, what happened the night the fake boyfriend told her the truth. She knows what it looked like when her own behavior was held up in front of her like a mirror. And she knows, maybe for the first time, that if she ever pushes that far again, I am capable of doing something about it. That's as close to a happy ending as I'm ever going to get with her. And honestly, it's sufficient.